Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. My name is Rafael, and in today's video I'm going to be doing an in-depth review of the Seiko 5 Sports SBSA009. Now, some of you may already know that the SBSA009 is this watch that I have right here in front of me. It's steel case, steel bezel, black bezel insert, and of course that beautiful bright orange dial. Anyways, I'm going to be going over all of those details and much more in the video. Let's get started. And here we are with the Seiko 5 Sports SBSA009 on the wrist. You can see it looks great on this bracelet, which I'll detail in a little bit, just giving you a couple different angles. Definitely a larger size watch, especially on the thickness there. Oh, whoops. Nevertheless, with this bracelet, the lugs being turned down, let's say, it does wrap around the wrist very nicely, so it wears the size very well. Now let's take it off to get a closer look. Now on paper, the dimensions for this SBSA009 and all of the Seiko 5 Sports models, if you're not familiar with them already, it's going to be 42.5 in diameter. You can see that's about right. 46 millimeters lug to lug. Yep, on the money. 13.4 in thickness. And the strap size, or the distance between the lugs, is officially 22. I don't really have structures here to make it so precise, but you can see that's about right. And we have the traditional SKX case for those who are familiar, or in fact, I have one right here for those who are not. So the inspiration between this color scheme is going to be this. This is the SKX011, and I will be doing a head-to-head comparison video, so you can check the channel for that if it's not up already. Make sure to subscribe. But if you're wondering what the inspiration was for this now modern SBSA, it's this. You can see obviously we have the orange dials and the gold tone of the bezel, which I'll get into in a sec. But obviously this is new and improved for a number of reasons that I'll get into throughout this video. Now what we do have, as I was saying, the traditional case where you have the polished case flanks, crown guards, obviously the crown at 4 o'clock, that's a very trademark Seiko watch structure, let's say. Again, we still have the polished, brushed lugs. It's a very nice contrast here between a brushed top and a polished side. Obviously, we have a unidirectional diver's bezel. If you were wondering why the bezel is orange, not orange, but gold. Actually, in my opinion, this is kind of a gold orange. Here are the markings is what I'm referring to. Again, drawing inspiration from the SKX011 that I presented earlier. It is a very nice contrast with the black bezel insert and the beautiful orange dial. Before moving on to the dial, I do want to mention the crystal is Hardlex. That's a proprietary Seiko material. It's been around for a while, and it's more than anything because it works well. It's quite scratch resistant, not as scratch resistant as sapphire would be, but I'm sure it's magnitudes less in cost, and that's why Seiko created it and uses it throughout many of its value pieces. It is shatterproof as well, so you need not be worried about smashing, hitting the watch or hitting your wrist against a door frame or desks and stuff like that and being concerned about the crystal shattering. That's not going to happen here. I do like to point out on the Seiko 5 Sports models, there's this slight channel division between the crystal and the bezel that I think that's a nice bit of detail there. I think it wouldn't look as good if it were flush. Whether that can actually be engineered or not, or created in that way, I'm not sure, but either way, I think the end product looks great. Taking a closer look at the dial here, we can see it's a very flashy, very bright orange color. It does have a sunray finish on it. Here you can see I can catch it on the light. And obviously, very, very loud orange. We do have black printed minute markers there on the inside of the bezel, often called the rehaut. And of course, the applied hour indices there in polished steel with plenty of lumen. You can see, looks like a nice green. Oftentimes these, I've found in my experience, the Seiko 5 sports models, they will either have, they're all Lumibrite, which again, I believe is a Seiko proprietary luminous material. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green, and you can't really get a straight answer on the web, at least not in my experience. So we can see here that it's the green version in this case. The hands are at center are gold, a polished gold. I would imagine that's not actual gold, it's probably painted. Very nice match, recalling the numerals on the bezel, and of course we have that contrasting center seconds with our little lollipop cantilever on the end there. Now, some of you may have noticed already the printing there at the bottom of the dial that says made in Japan, and that's because this entire watch, this reference, the SBSA009, is made again entirely in Japan. You can buy this model, essentially this orange dial, black bezel, in references. It'll be a different reference when it's not made entirely in Japan. However, the SBSA references usually, I would say probably 95% or 99% of the time, indicate a watch that's made entirely in Japan. As far as differences between this model made in Japan and this model made outside of Japan, again, they'd have different references. There's really very few. The look is the same. The printing at the bottom is, of course, different. And there is one difference, another, probably the most noticeable one, is going to be that secondary day language. You can see it momentarily change to English. Oh wait, that's time. So when we have the Seiko 5 sports models that are made entirely in Japan, they're going to have English and Japanese as the day languages. And let me just show you that again. Saturdays are in blue and Sundays are in red. As far as the date, that remains black text on a white background. Again, super, super legible. That's going to be the greatest difference for the made in Japan models. Perhaps that's something that you find important. I'm sure a lot of collectors do. You're likely to pay a premium for the made in Japan models. I'm not sure as far as they're not limited. I'm not sure. I don't believe there's public information as far as production quantities, but it was a fact with the previous SKX, and you can see here this one's also made in Japan version, that these versions, again, they were both available in made in Japan and made outside of Japan. The Japan versions were, or did command a price premium, however small in some cases, but it was there nonetheless. Moving on to the bracelet. This is a styled, very similar to what I would call a Rolex Oyster bracelet. Again, very, very fitting for a diver watch. You can see we do have a taper here from the end links, which are hollow, as you can see. Moving on to our clasp. Oh, one thing, well, I don't believe I mentioned, we do have lug holes, so it can make it very, very easily to change this into a strap. I know a lot of collectors out there, when they take their watches in the ocean, although I've always loved wearing a watch on a bracelet while I'm doing water activities, let's say. I know a lot of collectors out there prefer to change it to a rubber, perhaps some other type of strap, and this makes it super easy. You can also see that this isn't, although it looks like a screw head, these are actually pins, so they don't screw into the link. So that makes it, obviously it's not as easy to change the size on the bracelet, but usually you'll just do this once, and if anything, play around with the micro adjustments here on the clasp. Speaking of the clasp, you can see it's stamped steel. It's very sturdy. There is a slight jangle to it. However, I'm not using this fold over clasp here, and I'm kind of trying to pry it apart, and it's really not opening. So it's very safe and secure strap. Let me open it so we can get a better look at the movement inside. This is going to be the 4R36. One of the significant improvements that came with this new Seiko 5 Sports, replacing once more the SKX here, a little dinosaur, is the movement. So now, well, first of all, we can see it. The SKX did not have a see-through case back. Now we have that, which is always nice. And we have the Seiko 4R36 movement in there. Now it's going to be automatic. You can see the rotor spinning with the movement, so that's how it winds itself. Finishing on the movement is simple. There's some finishing there. A lot of times, if this was a bare movement, you really wouldn't be able to see these stripes or the brushing there on the bridge or this polishing. That wouldn't be there. So you can tell Seiko at least put some time into these movements, knowing they were going to be exhibited. So they didn't want it to be a mess back there, and I can certainly appreciate that. Now, as far as the specs on the movement, that's going to be 41 hours power reserve. We already know it's self-winding. There is something here. This crown doesn't screw down. You can see I can rotate it here, and it's at what I call position 0. So what a function that this new movement has, by not having a screw down crown, you can wind it, hand wind it, and you can hear here. As I rotate clockwise, it's winding the watch, and counterclockwise it spins freely. So that's one of the new functions. Again, we didn't have that in the previous SKX that this watch is replacing. We have that now. There's also hacking seconds. So note the seconds hand there. I'm going to pull it out to the last position, and it stops. So what this allows you to do is to be super precise when you're setting the time, when you're setting it up to a reference time, let's say. So once you're ready to get it going, boom, push it back in. This is going to be 100-meter water resistance, and as you can see, is indicated on the back, 10 bar, so that's 100 meters water resistance. And you also have here in the back, made in Japan. That's one of the other markings that differentiates this from a non-made in Japan version. But again, differences are minimal, and it's more about what the collector prefers. But here you have it, beautiful SBSA009. There you have it. That's our review of the Seiko 5 Sports SBSA009. Now, that left you with any questions or comments, make sure to leave them in the section below. Drop us a like if you found this video helpful. And as always, subscribe to the channel for more wristwatch and men's lifestyle content. If you're looking for pricing, we do have some links in the description. Depending on when you check, since there's many different sellers around the world, the prices may be a little higher or perhaps a little lower. So if you're looking to get this guy on your wrist, make sure to check often. Anyways, I'm Rafael. This is Bespoke Unit. Thanks for watching.